Hundreds flocked Jackson's airport to witness the arrival of King James Bible. PNG's rainforest threatened by man-made and natural fires. And Cricket PNG finalises its team for the Pacific Games.
This is National MTV News with Tokana Hasavi.
Good evening and welcome to another working week. Papua New Guinea is home to one of the largest tropical rainforests in the world, but studies have now shown that man-made and natural fires are amongst the causes that destroy PNG's unique forest resources. Because of this, the Remote Sensing Centre of the University of Papua New Guinea today launched the PNG Firewatch website to facilitate disaster management and monitor forests in Papua New Guinea.
The launch of the new Firewatch website today in Port Moresby is an important step towards monitoring the country's forests when it comes to man-made and natural fires. Supported with a grant by the European Union, the Firewatch website uses the latest satellite imagery. It is a vital tool for awareness building, disaster mitigation, and a sustainable future in line with the responsible sustainable strategy adopted by the PNG government.
What we found was that large areas of the country's forest estate had been damaged by fires, both in the lowlands and in the highlands, and this was something that previously wasn't considered to be of major importance. It was actually viewing the way that the Australian government was managing and monitoring wildfires threatening suburbs in Australia that gave us the idea that we would be able to harness satellite technology to pick up on hotspots, to pick up on fire locations and put them on a map of Papua New Guinea.
The new website can be viewed at fire.pngsdf.com. It shows every location where a fire is burning in PNG forests and automatically uploads the information. European Union Ambassador Martin Deem was present at the launch.
The benefits the rainforest provides to the population should remain not just today, but for many, many years to come. This is a major new tool that helps monitoring forests. It also helps, of course, facilitating disaster management.
Ambassador Deem said PNG owns the third largest forest area in the world. It provides food and other essentials for over 80% of the country's rural population, and it also gives economic value to the country. The carbon content in PNG's forest is also a global asset as it fights climate change. Therefore, the Firewatch website enables global monitoring of its overall forest cover. Deli Waigeno, National MTV News.
Students at Lays Polytechnic Institute have boycotted classes since last week following complaints raised over the deteriorating state of its facilities. The students want the administration to attend to their concerns. SRC President Gary Gunema says the students will maintain their standoff despite the institute going into the mid-semester studies.
This was the scene at Lays Polytechnic Institute this morning. More than half of the institution's 1,800 students, armed with placards, mobilized to show their frustrations towards the administration over the deteriorating state of the institution.
This boycott basically it's all on about our students' welfare.
The standoff began last week and has dragged into its second week after calls made by the SRC committee to the administration were not considered.
The director asked us to resume classes, but if you want to resume classes, then we see that there is no facility for us to resume classes.
A petition containing their demand was presented to the administration, and this morning's protest has prompted a response from the administration. The administration assured the students that a committee will be set up to take on the students' concerns raised in the petition.
A council will be convened immediately, perhaps by tomorrow, to address this, look into the students' petition.
The boycott comes 2 weeks after the University of Natural Resource and Environment in East New Britain also boycotted classes for a month following complaints raised over deteriorating infrastructures. As the protests continue at Polytech, students say they won't go to class until their concerns are addressed. Colin Barilai, National MTV News, Leh.
Over the past 3 years, we've covered a long list of stories about clashes between different ethnic groups. Most times, the focus gradually shifts from the story after the fighting subsides. In tonight's MTV News special report, we revisit some of those who have been left worse off after the fighting.
Last year, Simon Salagori from the East Sepik stood outside his house at Leh's Nawai block as it was engulfed in flames. One of his sons had been accused of attacking another man, and in retaliation, his father's house had been set on fire. Today, Simon and his family have not quite recovered from the attack. The house that stood on cement posts has not been rebuilt, and his only means of income now is from a small block of land in another part of Nawai block.
Which was me in the finish behind the room. And by all beginning now
Simon came to Leh in 1957. He built a life with his family and finally retired several years ago. But the scars of the alcohol-triggered fighting in his neighborhood have left him longing for the early days when Leh City was just a town. In 5 Mile outside of Leh City, retired teacher Ignatius Bagle is still waiting for the provincial government and law and order authorities to act on complaints he sent to them in 2012.
All the property stuff inside the area and fire nothing.
His house was burnt in a similar attack.
Number only house and fire 33 houses altogether.
Bagle spent 47 years of his life teaching primary school children. His house was burnt after members of his community were accused of stoning a passing vehicle.
People are now independent long time. People must now come up civilized legally now. People must clear us, having good legal law. Sindang law, people were Arab line again criticize Papua New Guineans. We are independent country. We have to, people must grow up also rightful people.
Bagle says much of the problems stem from alcohol consumption and the lack of discipline, and it's causing communities in the country to fragment.
You know, got discipline, Papa Mama in school, young people, you know, discipline in all. Now, Islamic worse.
Come on, do stop in going on. Come on, mouse learn any pain, long way, man, long now, long time. He hard. Maski police only come to finish only 3.
The impacts of illegal alcohol also affect the women and children. They're left homeless, without food and water. But the elderly, many of whom came to Leh when it was peaceful, have learned to accept the difficulties. Many have stopped trying to fight the changes. Scott Waide, National MTV News, Leh.
To one of our top stories tonight, a grand reception was held today at the Jackson's Airport to welcome the 404-year-old King James Bible from America. The Bible is a gift from the state of Indiana to the people of Papua New Guinea. Speaker Theo Zirinur described the Bible as a national treasure which will set the foundation for a new Papua New Guinea.
A high-powered delegation led by the Speaker of Parliament, Theo Zirinur, accompanied the Bible from the USA to Port Moresby. Awaiting them were anxious believers who packed the Jackson's International Airport to have a glimpse of the priceless treasure. Reverend Joseph Walters received the Bible from the delegation and proceeded to the main stage, with many believers scrambling to have a feel of it. Let's give them space. As the antique took center stage, there was jubilation with songs and dances. The Prime Minister Peter O'Neill arrived minutes later to join the delegation, including the opposition leader Don Pollier. Speaker Theo Zirinur urged the government to lead the country governed by biblical principles.
Prime Minister, we need moral values more than anything else in this nation. And you will find that the Bible is the only source that contains those values more than any other faith document. If you want to fight corruption, if you want peace, and if you want good order, and if you want discipline, if you want to build a nation with national patriotism, then you better teach morality.
Zureno told critics not to stir hatred in the hearts of the people but to focus on the rationale behind this prophetic move.
Prime Minister and leaders of the nation, unfortunately, it is a sad and degrading reality that certain institutions in the media fraternity of our nation seem to be either ignorant or deliberately promoting negative ideas. I am of the view that many a time there is a deliberate intention to misinform the masses simply for the sake of their own economic conveniences. They disregard their own professional ethics and they fail the basic practice of moral responsibility. They seem to promote disunity and concentrate on one of their favorite agenda, and that is to provoke hatred for leadership in our people's minds and hearts.
As PNG prepares to celebrate 40 years of independence, which to many believers is a prophetic time, the Bible represents a transition.
It is indeed 40 years since independence. This year is a defining year for Papua New Guinea as a country develops. Receiving this Bible today adds to the sense of significance as we define our nation and as we define this year when we continue to develop our nation. Our Christian faith is of great importance to all our people in our country, as it is for many other countries. As our good speaker stated, the first president of the United States, George Washington, once said, "The world cannot be governed without God and the Bible."
The Bible will visit the government house before arriving at its final resting place, the Parliament House, where it will be kept as a national treasure for the people of Papua New Guinea. Mickey Cavera, National MTV News.
Hundreds flocked to the Jacksons International Airport in Port Moresby today for the arrival of the 404-year-old King James Version of the Bible. Joining their fellow Port Moresby Christians were churches, pastors and groups who travelled from all over the country to welcome the Bible that's been gifted to PNG by the US of A. Here's what some of the individuals who attended the ceremony had to say.
Bible em bakam lo Papua New Guinea miplo mama mipla ama mas no gotro. Asem paste miplo ino save long display something it now em life miplo stop na em kam lo Papua New Guinea mitok thank you lo Papa God.
Before only been current missionary come long Papua New Guinea where miplo ino save but only been talk sem 1 plus something and pakam na mi play wait go mi play mama mi play cry mi play wait go na now mi play na thing was mi book am contract box am kam lo Papua New Guinea na mi play ba make him one mi play sim chok stop talk am kam white man la make him sol Papua New Guinea like finish him was na mi play talk thank you straight lo God.
One historical event that come up this day where me plan na blue think my children all by me but talk savelong all my their children all by savelo this land na imba one something that it will pass on to our generation.
Bible em talk also first shall be last shall be first. Now there's something now em take place lo today lo 2015. Na mi hamas na mi praising them long God. Now God Papa God by his big name.
And we Papua New Guineans, we know that we are the big brother of the rest of the Pacific Island nation. We believe that God, this is the appointed time that God may shift him this power and we bring him big blood civilization like American, Australian, or another big blood developed nations. It is now shifting towards the Pacific. And this power of God is now becoming the foundation of this nation.
In a turbulence. But this is our divine Papua New Guinea, and it's a divine moment to celebrate and to welcome this God that did a great job in the Western countries, so to speak. and it's coming to the land of Papua New Guinea. People may say that we are third world country, but to God we are not. We are who we are. We are Papua New Guinea.
Well, one district in Southern Islands has partnered with churches for development in the district. Nipa Kutubu District Development Authority is leading the way in establishing a partnership with 15 church groups in the district. All representatives from the different churches met with member for Nipa Kutubu, Jeffrey Komal, to discuss a way forward. When addressing the newly formed organization, the Body of Christ, the members said development must come from all sectors, including the churches. He said this spiritual unity calls for all churches to work together with the district authority in delivering education and health programs. As part of this agreement, the district administration will put up a new community hall at the district station for all church activities, including Easter and Christmas festivals. And in more news to come, a lucky escape for a driver on Port Moresby's freeway. Also, World Health Day celebrations, and West New Britain launches Equi-TV program. Stay with us for that and more. Good to have you back with National MTV News. The driver of a cement mixing vehicle escaped major injuries after he lost control of the vehicle that he was driving, colliding into an oncoming vehicle and taking with it the fence of the SVA shop at Harbour City here in Port Moresby. These images taken this morning show the ready-mix vehicle sitting at the foot of the Poriporana freeway. Witnesses told MTV News the vehicle was travelling at a high speed from Burns Peak into Conodobu when its brakes failed and it crashed into the Curtin Brothers sand and gravel compound beside the freeway. Luckily, no one was injured. Health Secretary Pascal Kasse says Papua New Guineans can reduce high cases of people suffering from food-borne diseases by preparing food in a clean environment. Mr. Kasse said if the 5 universal principles of food security are observed when preparing food, there will be less food-borne diseases cases reported to our hospitals. He made these remarks at the World Health Day celebrations in Port Moresby today.
Having access to food is a basic human right, but what's more important is that the food prepared is cooked in a clean environment with clean hands. In Papua New Guinea, children under the age of 12 are vulnerable to foodborne diseases like diarrhea, and many often end up acquiring other preventable diseases. For this year's World Health Day, the Health Department and other partners are emphasizing the importance of food security.
This year, WHO urges all governments, the food industry and consumers to take food safety serious in order to improve global health and save lives.
The 5 principles of food security are keep clean, separate raw from cooked food, cook thoroughly, keeping food at a safe temperature, and using safe and clean water and raw materials when preparing food, either at home or in a food industry. NCD Governor Powes Pakop, who was amongst the speakers, said while more food industries are developing in PNG, it is important the safety preparations are observed during the manufacturing process. Pakop also challenged all enforcement agencies to monitor the quality of imported food products, especially imported protein, so proteinal cases are minimized.
Preliminary information that we have, foodborne disease has become another major public health challenge for PNG to address. Therefore, all the sector partners that are here today to celebrate today and our wider community, we all must face this challenge head-on.
Tekla Gunga, National MTV News.
For the last 20 years, providing and accessing quality education in the country has not been that easy. From text-based to radio, television is the next best medium the Education Department is considering. With that, West New Britain Province launched the Equi-TV concept recently at the Boas Kule Primary School.
government's plan to provide equal access and quality education for all has been underpinned by many circumstances in policies, human resource and infrastructure. The EQTV concept is the next best thing the Education Department is focusing on. Godfrey Yaure from the Education Department says this is an innovative learning process in our education system. West New Britain is a province heavily populated with the extension of oil palm settlers, and there is need for more schools. The Education Department is now pushing for greater use of ICT and multimedia programs to address education quality in the country. West New Britain is now looking to extend and develop its human resource through the use of EQTV projects. Jacob Power Jr., National MTV News.
Meanwhile, Education Secretary Dr. Michael Tapo says the department will continue to partner with MTV to broadcast the EquiTV program to schools. Secretary Tapo said this partnership will extend as more schools come on board to give equal access and opportunity for children in the country.
We began to use the MTV to be able to help us to be able to get the decoders and the television to almost all the schools where the projects have been in place. The television will go a long way on behalf of our children because pictures means 101 words or more than that.
The Nipa Kutubu district in Southern Highlands is using its education components of the District Services Improvement Program funds for infrastructure projects. 60,000 kina from this year's 3 million kina from the DSIP was used to put up a double classroom and a teacher's house for Injin Primary School. The member for Nipa Kutubu, Jeffrey Komal, opened the two new buildings recently.
Complementing the national government's free education policy and the provincial government's school uniform rollout project, the Nipa Kutubu district is building infrastructure projects for all schools throughout the district. Member for Nipa Kutubu, Jeffrey Komal, was in the Hapa Nipa area for the opening of the buildings. The local community turned out in numbers for the occasion. The member praised the government for the tuition fee-free education policy, saying it allows parents, district and provincial governments to invest in quality education. Since 2013, the district has invested 10 million kina in education projects and programs in Nipa and Kutubu secondary schools, plus primary schools in the districts.
Leadership long, the Honorable Prime Minister Peter O'Neill. Also free education, free health care.
A further 100,000 kina was committed by the member for another double classroom for the same school.
60,000, we give him finish. This is 40,000, but make him 100,000.
He announced the establishment of a feeder school for Nipa Secondary School.
But you get one block, feeder high school, long feeder Nipa Secondary School, and Tuan High School, maybe declaring.
A commitment was also made for the rebuilding of Halal to Ungubi Road. Michelle Amba, National MTV News.
New police headquarters will be built in Manus provincial capital Lorengau at the cost of 10 million kina. This new building will be a replica of the Constabulary's New Guinea Islands divisional headquarters in Kokopo, East New Britain. It is funded by the Australian government through the PNG Australia Law and Justice Partnership Transitional Program and will take 12 months to complete. Deputy Police Commissioner Awan Sete was in Manus to witness the launch of the project. The national government, through the National Executive Council, has approved a policy to ban all businesses in both private and public sectors to use the Kumul name. State Enterprise and Investment Minister Ben Micah said the bird is a sacred symbol and identity, giving the government no option to create and implement this policy. Micah said the only exception would be the naming of the country's rugby league team, the PNG Kumuls. Minister Micah made this announcement during the launch of the Kumuls jumper recently in Port Moresby.
So the Kumul name will be now restricted only for government in terms of the crest and government naming, and the policy specifically now is going to restrict the use of the name Kumul.
The National Executive has approved the final report on the proclamation of emergency on electricity services. This report will be tabled in Parliament later this year. One major recommendation of the report is the restructure of PNG Power Limited as a means of improving electricity services in the country. Amongst the report is the appointment of PPL's new board, which will review and implement recommendations of that report. Larry Andagali remains the chairman, while Dr. Clement Waine as deputy chairman and John Mangos as the executive director. The proclamation of emergency was approved by the NEC for major projects that will progress the development of electricity. And now we check out the finance news. The Kina closed at 0.3715 US dollars in the interbank market, and at Bank South Pacific, our Kina was fetching 0.364 US dollars, 0.462 Australian dollars, 0.3308 euro, and 42.84 Japanese yen. Looking at commodity prices at New York close, gold closed the day lower, while cocoa, copper, and coffee closed the day higher. Copper and palm oil closed higher as well, while crude oil closed the day lower. And finally, on the stock market, the Dow Jones closed 22 points higher, the ASX closed at 60 points higher, and the All Ordinaries closed at 58 points higher. Well, National MTV News continues with stories making headlines overseas. That's coming up after these short messages. Stay tuned. Thanks for your company and good to have you back with the news. Turning overseas now, in the aftermath of the 7.9 magnitude quake that struck Nepal on Saturday, aerial shots have revealed the scope of damage in remote parts of the Himalayas. More than 3,000 people were killed in the earthquake, and medical and rescue efforts are underway after an appeal from the Nepal government. MTV's Alana Lay has more on this report.
The footage yesterday revealed the extent of damage caused in the landlocked Himalayan kingdom. The earthquake struck near Nepal's capital, Kathmandu. Relief efforts and funds have been flooding in. China, the UK and India flew in emergency and rescue crews, while India also flew in medical supplies, and Thailand sent doctors and disaster relief teams. The UK government has also donated over 20 million kina, while the Canadian government allocated over 11 million kina. A team of Israeli medical and rescue efforts, as well as almost 100 tons of aid supplies, experienced delays due to poor landing conditions and tremors.
We plan to build a hospital that will function as a tertiary hospital, which means we can operate, we can have intensive care, hospitalized, and even escort patients, the wounded, the injured, to Israel. We are also ready to give medical support to the rescue teams that are on the arena.
Rescuers were hard at work into the early hours of yesterday morning, trying to rescue survivors trapped in collapsed buildings. Crowds cheered as survivors were pulled from the rubble and sent to waiting ambulances. Nepal's many remote parts have been devastated, and rescue operations have not commenced in some areas. The earthquake also caused an avalanche on Mount Everest, killing at least 17 people. Prime Minister Peter O'Neill yesterday expressed deep sympathy towards the countries affected, calling for Papua New Guineans to reflect on the families who have lost their loved ones. Alana Lay, MTV World News.
2 Australian drug convicts on death row, Andrew Chan and Miran Sukumaran, are to be executed just after midnight on Wednesday. The Indonesian Attorney General's office said 7 inmates received execution notices from the prison island of Nusa Kambangan last Saturday. Families of the death row convicts have been forced to say their final farewells by 2 p.m. tomorrow. Indonesia resumed executions in 2013 after a 5-year gap, with 6 prisoners executed by firing squad so far this year. Australian Foreign Affairs Minister Julie Bishop said she is profoundly dismayed over the coming executions, saying there is no evidence that Indonesia is responding to diplomatic pressure. Well, Trukai Sports is coming up next, and Cricket PNG announces its team for the Pacific Games and the national swimming titles. Stay with us for that and more.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome to Trukai Sports. Cricket PNG today announced its finalised national teams for the 2015 Pacific Games and the ICC World Cup League. The PNG A team will participate at the Pacific Games, while the PNG Barramundis will take part in the T20 World Cup qualifiers. Following a successful campaign in 2014, the Pacific MMI Lewis are set for their inaugural year at the Pacific Games.
Cricket PNG is embarking on another campaign to elevate their international status with the hope of qualifying for the T20 World Cup staged in India. General Manager for Cricket PNG, Greg Campbell, said the next 6 months will be exciting for all national representational teams.
It's a really exciting time. Cricket is growing bigger and better in this country, and we're getting to a stage where we'll have international teams touring here next year. In March, April or May, we could have Ireland here, who we know beat West Indies in the last 50-over World Cup just held last month.
The Barramundis, who are without captain Chris Amini, have a good lineup for the year. Tony Ura, Lega Siaka and Norman Vanua, obvious inclusions to the side, while Chris Amini has been named to captain the PNG A team for the Pacific Games. The PNG A team is a full-strength team that will also be a competitive prospective gold medal winning team.
Oh, he's given him, yes. There's a wicket.
Cricket PNG is also banking on the Pacific MMI Lewis for an additional gold medal. The Lewis have been in defining form over the past 12 months and are looking sharp to better their performance and gain much more recognition this year.
We're very confident. We don't expect anything less. And that's not only pressure on the coaching staff, the selectors, the players in particular. Our training programs over the last three months has been based on the fact that we've got to qualify for the T20 World Cup in India, and the A-team Pacific Games squad, they've got to win gold.
Lorraine Genia, National MTV Sports.
Still on cricket, the Cricket PNG management also announced today that Jack Vare and Asad Vala would take on the role as captain and vice-captain of the Barramundis in Chris Amini's absence. Amini, who has struggled recently with injury, is still regarded by coach Deepak Patel as one of PNG's best cricketers. Patel said both Vare and Vala fit the criteria perfectly and are capable of leading the team this year.
Huge shoes to fill in. You know, Chris Amini did a fantastic job, and I'm sure that when Jack alluded to that he congratulated Chris is still part of our squad. Let's not get that wrong either.
Acknowledge our former captain Chris Amini. He's done a great job getting us to where we are now. Look, it's an honor to represent your country and even to captain your side or your country. It's a massive honor for me. Having that 8 million, 8 million people back home, representing them, it's a massive task.
Well, the TNT National Swimming titles ended yesterday at Port Moresby's Ella Murray International School. Many of PNG's overseas-based swimmers competed and had their coaches, parents and friends there for support. Among the day's highlights was the Open Men's 1,500-metre freestyle, which was an automatic qualifier for the Pacific Games. NTV's Koduneki has more on this report.
The National Swimming Championships ended yesterday on a high as some of the swimmers broke their PNG record and current best records. The final run of the tournament saw over 21 heats of each individual medley and group relay. The tournament saw mixed events as juniors and open divisions swam to hit the target times. Coaches of each swimming club around the country, including overseas coaches, were also present with the PNG Swimming Inc. President Elizabeth Wells to closely watch the swimmers and iron out the possible train-on squad. PNG's lead swimmer Ryan Pinney, who also took part in the tournament, was the crowd's favourite as he showed his best performances. The final run of the tournament saw the last two heats of the men's open division swim in the 1,500-metre freestyle, doing up to 60 laps on the 25-metre pool. The qualifiers of the tournament will go to represent Papua New Guinea in the Pacific Games this July. Godwin Aki, National MTV Sports.
Trukai Sports continues with golf. We'll preview the PNG Open, results from the Morabay Open and Rugby League. Stay with us.
Trukai Sports.
Good to have you back with Trukai Sports. Australian golfer Daniel Nisbet has won his first international professional tournament, taking out the 2015 Coca-Cola Morabay Open in Lae at the weekend. Nisbet took out the Morabay Open title with a 3-hole playoff with another Australian first-time professional golfer, Tim Hart. Hart, who led in the 4 rounds of the tournament, was beaten in the finals after Nisbet started the day ahead with 2 shots. MTV Sylvester Gawa has the wrap-up of last week's Morabay Open golf tournaments.
The 48 professional golfers who took part in the Morabay Open golf tournament in Lae last week were on a mission to make the most out of the tournament. With professional golfers coming in from Australia, New Zealand and the Philippines, there were also strong challenges for our PNG golfers in preparation for the Pacific Games. Tim Hart and Daniel Nisbet are professional golfers from Queensland, Australia. After starting the day 2 shots ahead of Tim Hart and New Zealander Sean Reardon, Nisbet struggled on the front 9. Hart turned in 4 under par and Nisbet 2. He found himself 4 shots behind with just 9 holes to play.
When I first played with Tim was the captain of the Queensland team. I think it might have been back in 2006, and I was playing underneath him. So I always call him Skip when I see him. I think we played together 2006, maybe 2008 as well, and we played foursomes together for the Australian State Series.
With a healthy crowd watching, Hart missed the green with his 3rd shot, and when he got it up and down for par, it was left to Nisbet for an 8-foot par for the win. Daniel Nisbet, during presentations last night at the Lae Golf Club, was happy about the hospitality and services, which were surprising for many professional golfers. Nisbet took out the grand prize money of 20,216 Australian dollars, while Tim Hart, the runner-up, got 11,671 Australian dollars. The professionals now add to the Royal Port Moresby Golf Club for this week's South Pacific Export Papua New Guinea Open. Professionals Stephen Jeffers, Paul Spargo, Josh Younger and Ryan Lynch will join the strong PGA lineup in Papua New Guinea for an opportunity to win a national open. Sylvester Gawi, National MTV Sports, Lae.
Still on the gentlemen's game, the Royal Port Moresby Golf Club will again play host to the annual SB Export PNG Golf Open. The Open tees off on Thursday and will feature 76 professional and amateur golfers chasing cash prizes worth over 300,000 kina. The SB Export PNG Open is the richest sporting tournament held in Papua New Guinea.
The Open will bring some of the best golfers from the Asia-Pacific region and is part of the Sunshine Coast PGA Tour. A number of former Open winners will be featured in this year's competition, a prospect that has excited co-tournament director Ken Dunn.
All players on the Sunshine Tour in Queensland. It is their richest, we are the richest tournament now, as I understand it, on the Sunshine Tour, and we've always rated very, very highly at the end of the year when they look towards the recognising the best event during the year.
The Open would provide exposure to local golfers hoping to make the cut for the Pacific Games.
Well as 60 male amateurs, and in those 2 fields actually includes the PNG training or train-on squad for the Pacific Games.
Fellow co-tournament director Shane Johnson outlined etiquette and rules and also expressed satisfaction in the increase in visiting golfers.
At this point, everything is running quite smoothly. As Dorothy said, the Pro-Am is on, the Brian Bell Pro-Am is on Wednesday, and the event proper starts on Thursday.
PNG golfers August Penny and Nelson Gabriel will also participate, the latter finishing outside of the top 50 in 2014. The 4-day event will cover 72 holes and ends on Sunday. Jeremy Moggy, National MTV Sports.
To Rugby League, the Lae Snacks Tigers proved too classy for the SNS Port Moresby Vipers, beating them 48 points to 0 in the Digicel Cup Round 2 match yesterday afternoon. The Tigers scored 8 converted tries in front of a vocal crowd at the Lay Rugby League ground. Port Moresby Vipers had a full-strength team, however ball handling errors denied their chances of registering points. Once again, MTV's Sylvester Gawi has more on this report.
There wasn't much energy in the game in the first half. Both teams had problems with ball security. Tigers made several try attempts on the far sides, but were held off by the Port Moresby Vipers. With a few seconds to go before halftime, Tigers 5'8" Charlie Simon damaged in front of the uprights and sent in Charles Martin to open the scoreboard for the Tigers. Charlie Simon converted for the Tigers to lead 6-0 into halftime.
Yeah, this is it's a pretty big effort by the boys. Really good confidence boost from last week's win. I think the boys really dug deep. We knew that Vipers had a bye last week, so they'd be fresh.
The Port Moresby Vipers didn't expect much from the Tigers' defensive play. Led by captain Sidney Fred, the Tigers went on hard on the visitors in the second half. Silky Tigers forward Ismail Balkawa found his way through the Vipers' defense to put his team in front with 12 points. 2 minutes later, Tigers hooker Noel Joel gave a short ball to Sidney Fred, who dived next to the uprights for the Tigers to lead 18-0. From the rebound, the Tigers returned with a breakthrough from Ismail Balkawa to set up Roy Keller, who passed on to Noel Joel, and Joel sent in David Loco for a try under the post.
We're going to focus one game at a time. Next week is Korea's here, so they're always strong, and we're really going to prepare, nothing differently, just a hard week at training, and then hopefully next week we can get over again.
Other try scorers for the day included Ismail Balkawa, who scored his second, Anderson Banford, Jeffrey Mino, and Robert Wuya. Charlie Simon converted 8 from 8 attempts to bring the home side to a 48-0 victory. The Tigers will host the Egmag Rabaul Gurias in Ley this Sunday. Sylvester Gawi, National MTV Sports, Ley.
And that report wraps up our True Kai Sports segment tonight. The weather details when we come back. Stay tuned.
True Kai Sports. True Kai Sports.
A quick look at the weather forecast for the next 24 hours in southern region Port Moresby and Karama to look forward to chances of some showers. In Momase, thundery showers expected in Madang. In the New Guinea Islands, showers for Kokopo and rain with thunderstorms in Kimbe. And lastly, in the Islands region, all centres to anticipate thundery showers, then morning fog. Well, that's how we end the bulletin this Monday. From the news team, I'm Tokana Hasavi. You have a pleasant working week. Take care and stay safe. Good night.